want to talk about bullies, we can talk about every time Caitlin has the ball, she pushes off.
I said marketing matters in everything. Promotion matters in everything.
So for me, it's not just about talking about one player. It's about talking about all the players.
Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's why you should have had Caitlin Clark.
Stephen A. Smith just called out a basketball legend. Was he right to do it? We're breaking down both sides of this heated debate that's got the WNBA buzzing. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The WNBA is changing at a faster rate than before. Rising talents are shattering the records set by the greatest players in history. It goes beyond just the numbers though. One rookie is drawing audiences like never before. Why is her achievement causing such anxiety in some well-known figures? Now let's talk about the WNBA's heyday. Right now, the league is exploding with unprecedented levels of popularity. Records are breaking, viewership is over the roof, and attendance is climbing. What, though, is causing this rapid expansion? To begin with, there is amazing talent on exhibit. Consider A'ja Wilson, who is averaging 27.5 points per game and controlling the floor. Not only is she talented, but she is also headed toward breaking Diana Taurasi's single-season scoring record. That is the type of performance that makes people want to discuss. However, Wilson isn't the only notable figure. With only 32 games played, Angel Reese just broke the previous league record most rebounds in a single season. Yes, she beat the record held by Sylvia Fowles by a significant margin. The WNBA's current playing standard, it is extremely high. Okay, great players, but how does that translate into more fans? Is probably what's on your mind right now. That's where things really start to get interesting. The rookie that is completely upending the league is Caitlin Clark. Not only is Clark excellent, but she's revolutionary. She joined the Indiana Fever, and since then they have improved from being bottom dwellers to contenders, recording their first record above 500 in 5 years. How about Clark? Over the past 12 games, her average per game has been 23.4 points. Those are rookie stats to make veterans cringe.
What I want to clear up is that for whatever reason, there's this narrative that I hate Caitlin Clark.
That Caitlin Clark should have been on the team ahead of the 12 people selected ahead of her because of basketball.
For other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old.
Mm-hmm. The really interesting part, though, is that Clark isn't just altering the game on the court, she's also altering it in the stands. An average of 15,740 people show up for Clark's games. That's an 85% increase over games without her. Take a moment to process that. The attendance of one player is almost tripling. With Clark leading the way, the Indiana Fever is currently the WNBA's best team in terms of attendance, both at home and away. On the road, they're outperforming other teams by 36% and at home by 35%. These are revolutionary figures, not simply excellent ones. WNBA attendance is up 20% overall. Ratings for television? Shattered. Sales of merchandise? Via the ceiling. Clark is at the core of what is essentially a league-wide resurgence. Some have even drawn comparisons between Clark and Tiger Woods, asserting that she is transforming women's basketball fan involvement in a manner similar to his success in golf. It's a fundamental change in the way people see the sport, not just hype. However, this is where things become tricky. Not everyone is happy about Clark's quick ascent to fame. Certain well-known figures in women's basketball appear uncomfortable. Beneath the surface, friction is building, with clues of potential biases in recognition. It appears that several individuals are unhappy with the league's new course. A provocative statement made by a WNBA legend has everyone talking. Stephen A. Smith is enraged by what she said, or rather, by who she did not say. The Hall of Famer and basketball star, Sheryl Swoopes, recently discussed her opinion on the Indian Fever's outstanding season. Her acclaim, however, glaringly ignored Caitlin Clark, the rookie wonder lighting up the league. Given that the player has been driving attendance and viewership records, why would a reputable individual such as Swoopes ignore him? Now let us dissect it. Regarding the Fever's performance as a whole, Swoopes was all praise. She complimented their planning and teamwork, highlighting a few important individuals in particular. However, Clark, not even one mention. Not mentioning Jordan when discussing the Bulls' heyday would be equivalent. There's something off. Currently, you may be asking yourself, maybe it was just an honest mistake.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about bullies, we can talk about every time Caitlin has the ball, she pushes off.
In regards to Clark starting with WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes herself.
If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set.
Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's why you should have had Caitlin Clark.
The trouble is, though, in the realm of professional sports, words count, particularly when they originate from someone of Swoopes' standing. This was more than a careless word choice. Across the basketball community, this decision caused some consternation. So why did Swoopes not include Clark? According to some, it might have to do with leaving a legacy. Ultimately, Clark's ascent is upending historical records and altering public perceptions of women's basketball. Could there be a trace of grudge there? Is there a deeper meaning behind it? Some question whether it has to do with the WNBA's evolving image. With more admirers and attention than ever before, Clark is a symbol of a new era. This unexpected ascent may feel difficult to veterans who battled for recognition in a less popular league. Regardless of the cause, Swoopes' remarks were not ignored. This is where Stephen A. Smith enters the picture. Smith wasn't going to let this go because he was known for taking no prisoners. For him, Swoopes' exclusion was more than a simple mistake. It was an obvious instance of unprofessional bias, in his opinion. Smith didn't hold back. Critiquing Swoopes' apparent lack of neutrality, he called him out. In his signature flair, he clarified that excluding Clark's name from the discussion was a purposeful decision that fits into a bigger story rather than just an accident. What story? The hypothesis that Clark's success may have some well-known figures in women's basketball feeling intimidated. Swoopes' remarks, according to Smith, give room to those who believe she's being hated on and ostracized to some degree. Smith, however, wasn't done. He did more, openly questioning Swoopes' level of professionalism. He said, "You're literally putting the lack of professional objectivity on display for audiences to see."
There is no way in hell you just accidentally left Caitlin Clark's name out of that soliloquy that you dropped about the Indiana Fever. Stop it.
So for me, it's not just about talking about one player. It's about talking about all the players.
I said marketing matters in everything. Promotion matters in everything. And you're not going to get around that. That is what I said.
I heard. That goes beyond simple criticism. It directly attacks Swoopes' objectivity as a pundit. The basketball community noticed. Players, fans, and commentators all had something to say. Some came out in Swoopes' favor, saying she was entitled to her viewpoint. Others supported Smith, viewing Swoopes' exclusion as an obvious blow against a player who is transforming the game. And it became obvious that this wasn't just about one player or one comment as the argument carried on. The topic of discussion was how women's basketball is evolving. Growing pains are a natural part of the WNBA's evolution. These tensions between tradition and innovation, new stars and old guards, are being played out in real time. The WNBA is trembling after Stephen A. Smith released a bombshell. This is no longer solely a Swoopes issue. It concerns the direction of women's basketball, and Smith may have completely changed the rules with her phrasing. However, what tiny phrase could possibly accomplish to spark such a furore? The initial word of it all? Coward. That's correct. Sheryl Swoopes was referred to as a coward by Stephen A. Smith for her remarks regarding the success of the Indiana Fever, or rather, for what she chose not to say. Smith did not hold back, charging that Swoopes was purposefully obliging to Caitlin Clark's influence on the club and the league. Why is this a major concern? Because Smith isn't merely criticizing Swoopes for a careless mistake. Her integrity as a sports commentator is being questioned by him. In Smith's opinion, Swoopes' decision to omit Clark from the discussion wasn't accidental. Rather, it was a conscious decision that exposed a lack of objectivity. Smith continued from there, with the words, "You gotta pause and then isolate and compartmentalize and give them the love that they're due." He underlined the significance of identifying transformational players like Clark. Giving credit where credit is due is important, but so is recognizing the players who are bringing new elements to the game. That's where things start to get interesting though. Not only did Smith's remarks annoy Swoopes, but they also caused a stir in the sports community. Smith was referred to by Swoopes as a effing coward for confronting her. How about flipping things around? This conversation has had a significant ripple effect. It goes beyond merely two well-known athletes making jokes about one another. The topic of sports commentators' influence on the stories around sportsmen has garnered more attention as a result. Even if it means admitting that the rules are shifting, are pundits still required to identify up-and-coming talent? Smith is undoubtedly of the same opinion. You're literally putting the lack of professional objectivity on display for audiences to see, he said, arguing that Swoopes' actions called into question her objectivity as a professional. I hurt. That goes beyond simple criticism to directly cast doubt on Swoopes' objectivity as a pundit. There is context for this conflict between Smith and Swoopes. The WNBA is undergoing fast change as this is happening. The league is experiencing unparalleled expansion as a result of players like Clark drawing in record attendance and attention. However, growth is accompanied by growing pains, and current issue is bringing those tensions to light. On one hand, you have well-known individuals like Swoopes, who made a great effort to get fame in a league that frequently had attention issues. Conversely, there are up-and-coming celebrities like Clark, who are attracting a lot of attention and admirers. There is a true conflict between these two universes in the confrontation between Smith and Swoopes. The way that Smith uses the word coward goes beyond simply criticizing Swoopes. The goal is to get the establishment to accept the changes that women's basketball is undergoing. The request is for impartiality and equity in the identification and celebration of up-and-coming talent. However, it also begs some awkward questions. Does the way that people view and talk about women's basketball differ based on generation? Is the success of recent arrivals like Clark posing a threat to certain more established figures? How can we reconcile our enthusiasm for the game's future with our reverence for its past? It is these kinds of questions that Smith's remarks have raised. These days, it's not just about one player or word. It's about where women's basketball is going overall. Conversations concerning impartiality, prejudice, and the obligations associated with having a voice in sports media have been spurred by the incident. Sheryl Swoopes and Stephen A. Smith's disagreement is about more than simply one player or one remark. The entire WNBA is being shaken by it. Perhaps Smith's coward bomb altered the course of the game forever. Contemplate it. Like never before, Caitlin Clark is drawing large audiences. Her attendance is increasing by 85%. That's quite significant. But with all this upheaval, some people seem anxious. How come? The true query is this: what is the role of a sports commentator? Do they want to control how we see athletes in leagues, or should they just call the game? Smith believes it comes down to recognizing game changers and acting fairly. Swoopes. She has her own opinion though. What do you think now? Should Smith criticize Swoopes? Is she simply remaining true to herself? Our responses to these queries may have an impact on women's basketball in the future.